गुड इव्हनिंग मित्रांनो. ऑडिओ व्हिडिओ क्लिअर आहे का रे? Okay, so clear. So guys, good evening and welcome to Unacademy. This is Abhijit and today we are going to discuss about the nervous system. So you can say the after completion of tissues associated with nervous system, we are finally entering into the system, and today we are going to discuss about the how actually it functions. Okay, so we have the beautiful story in today's lecture about the function of a nervous system. Okay, so throughout this series of a nervous system, we have minimum one story in the session. Okay, so please try to attend it live so you can enjoy the stories about the nervous system and the things which are very necessary to understand about the nervous system. Okay, so because we know that this is the part which is asked more than 4 marks or the 5 mark in the examination, that is the MST CET. Okay, so this batch is for the MST CET 2021. So if you see the syllabus, it is as per the new books. Okay, so at the last CT, the syllabus was the old one. Okay, so in this batch, this we are going as per the new syllabus. Okay, so guys, this is the Crack Maharashtra CT channel, and this is the YouTube channel. If you do not have subscribed, first subscribe it and start enjoying the live session. So in live, why live sessions? Because you can ask the questions to the educator, and uh, they will answer you in the 1 minute or 2 minute when your comment is here in front of us. Okay, so try to attend it the live. Okay, so let's start. Before starting the lecture, it is necessary to know about me, guys. This is Abhijit Madkar. I have more than a 6 year of experience in the field of biology and also crack net CSIR examination from the life science. Okay, so I know the most of the subject which is comes under the life science. Okay, so if you see the rank of my I mean my rank in the net CSIR examination, it is the 60. Okay, so you know how many students are there in the examination, and we are here on the India's largest platform, guys, now, and the Unacademy. So if you want to enjoy the Unacademy, मित्रांनो या अकॅडमी वरती हजारो लेक्चरर्स अवेलेबल आहेत आणि त्यांचे हजारो लेक्चर्स तुम्हाला रोज पाहायला मिळू शकतात. जर तुम्हाला हे करायचं असेल, एवढी लेक्चर्स पाहायची असतील वेगवेगळी, तर तुम्ही अनअकॅडमीचे हे ॲप तुमच्या मोबाईलमध्ये इन्स्टॉल केलेलं असावा. सो दिस ॲप इज अवेलेबल ऑन द ॲप स्टोअर. सो the if you say the iOS or the Android. Okay, so whatever it is in your hand, so you can install this app, and the link is given below in the description of this video. Okay, so this is Telegram app. It is for the daily updates. So the lecture, its timing, educator, and the topic, and the second thing, notes will be available from today. Okay, so after 3 days of the vacation, so we are going to start the adding a notes on this channel and the MCQs also. So we will have the MCQs also on this channel in the format of a poll, so you can enjoy it after the clicking on the option. If you are correct, so it will definitely congratulate you, and if you are wrong, so it will give you the correct answer. Okay, so this is the actually the method of MCQ in a poll format on this channel of a Telegram, and also about the updates, the lecture and the educator. Okay, so these are the few the subscriptions for you guys. So if you see the subscription about 12 months, so the fees for 12 month is 14,850 rupees, and for 24 month the fee is for 21,600 rupees. Okay, so guys, if you want to take a subscription, I mean when you are taking a subscription, so please use this code Abhijit as a subscription code. It will give you the 10% discount on fee. Okay, so it is for the discount. Okay, so when you pay the fee, so whatever it is, debit card, credit card, or the direct bank transfer, you can do that also. Okay, so use this capital Abhijit as a subscription code. It will give you the discount in a fee. Okay, so guys, if you see for 24 month, the fee is only 21,000, means you are not paying 1,000 per month also. Okay, so here you are paying more than the 1,000. Okay, so you are in a 12th, so please take a subscription of a 12 month, and you are in a 11th, take a subscription of 24 month. तुमची एक्झाम MST CET ची एक्झाम संपण्याआधी तुमचं सबस्क्रिप्शन संपलं नाही पाहिजे याची काळजी मात्र सगळ्यांनी घ्यायची, कारण शेवटी शेवटी तुम्हाला या सबस्क्रिप्शन मध्ये MCQs प्रॅक्टिस तुम्हाला भरपूर करावी लागणार आहे, आणि ती तुम्हाला सबस्क्रिप्शन मध्ये अलाउड आहे. ओके, त्यानंतर ऑफलाईन लेक्चरची फॅसिलिटी तुम्हाला या ठिकाणी अलाउड आहे. तुम्हाला जर तुमचं टाइम टेबल चेंज न करता लेक्चर अटेंड करायचे असतील तर तुम्ही एखादं लेक्चर डाउनलोड करून तुम्ही त्याला नंतर पाहू शकता. त्यानंतर तुम्हाला या ठिकाणी आणखी वेगवेगळ्या फॅसिलिटीज मिळणार आहेत, जसं की तुम्ही तुमच्या फेवरेट एज्युकेटर सोबत लाईव्ह इंटरॅक्ट होऊ शकता. त्यानंतर तुम्हाला आणखी फॅसिलिटीज मध्ये डाऊट सॉल्विंग सेशन सुद्धा अरेंज करता येतील. स्वतःचे डाऊट तुम्ही घेऊन येऊ शकता आणि तुमचे डाऊट त्या ठिकाणी सॉल्व्ह करून दिले जातील. ठीक आहे, अशा पद्धतीचे सगळे वेगवेगळे फंक्शन्स या सबस्क्रिप्शनच्या अंडर येतात, आणि याची सगळी डिटेल इन्फॉर्मेशन तुम्हाला या व्हिडिओच्या डिस्क्रिप्शन मध्ये दिलेली आहे. ओके, सो लेट्स स्टार्ट विथ द नर्वस सिस्टम. वी नो व्हॉट इज मीन बाय नर्वस सिस्टम. ओके, so the nervous system is the communication system in our body. So whenever our body want to communicate with, I mean the any organ of our body want to communicate with a second organ, so it definitely require nervous system for the communication. Okay, so this is the a good system, I mean the fastest one. And if you see the weight, so it is 3% of the body weight. Okay, means about 2 kg. Okay, 2 किलोच्या आसपास असते. So if you see in our body, so there are 11 system in our body. So out of this 11, this is the smallest one. And one more thing about this system is this is the complex one. ओके, स्मॉलेस्ट म्हणून अंडर एस्टिमेट करायचं नाही. सगळ्यात कॉम्प्लेक्स सिस्टम जी आहे आपल्या बॉडी मधली, तर ती हीच आहे. सगळ्यात लहान आहे, लक्षात ठेवायचं. टोटल 11 सिस्टम आहेत आपल्या बॉडी मध्ये. म्हणजे जसं तुम्ही म्हणता स्केलेटल सिस्टम, डायजेस्टिव्ह सिस्टम, रेस्पिरेशन सिस्टम, तर अशा एक्सक्रीशन सिस्टम, या सगळ्या सिस्टम ज्या आहेत 11th आहेत. या 11th मधली सगळ्यात लहान सिस्टम आहे तुमची नर्वस सिस्टम, आणि सगळ्यात कॉम्प्लेक्स सिस्टम जी आहे तर ती सुद्धा तुमची नर्वस सिस्टमच आहे. ओके, आणि या नर्वस सिस्टमचं जर टोटल ओव्हरऑल वेट पाहिलं तर अबाउट 2 किलोच्या आसपास येतं, आणि याच्यामध्ये तुमच्या बॉडी वेटच्या 3% पार्ट तुमची नर्वस सिस्टम कव्हर करते. मी याबद्दलची डिटेल इन्फॉर्मेशन आपण आजपासून हळूहळू घेणार आहोत. ठीक आहे, so let's see the overview of a nervous system. So this is the actually the diagram of your nervous system, how it looks like. Okay, so your nervous system looks like this diagram. अशी काही दिसत नाही ऍक्च्युली. ही जी डायग्राम आहे किंवा ही जी स्लाइड आहे जी तुमच्या समोर आहे, ही तुम्हाला नर्वस सिस्टम बद्दल इन्फॉर्मेशन देते, बरोबर आहे मित्रांनो, पण त्याच्या ऑर्गनायझेशन बद्दल देते. कशी ऑर्गनाइज झाली, स्ट्रक्चर कसं आहे, आणि कनेक्शन कसे आहेत, एकमेकांसोबत कनेक्ट कशी होते. ओके, तर याबद्दलची माहिती आहे. सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम, सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम मध्ये नेहमी 2 पार्ट येतात. ओके, एक आहे तुमचा ब्रेन जो डिसिजन घेतो, आणि दुसरा स्पायनल कॉर्ड. या 2 पार्टला एकत्र केलं तुम्ही की सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम बनते. ठीक आहे, त्यामुळे या ठिकाणी लिहिलेलं आहे स्ट्रक्चर इज मेड अप ऑफ द सेंट्रल स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम इज मेड अप ऑफ द ब्रेन अँड द स्पायनल कॉर्ड. तिलाच प्रेमानं आपण CNS म्हणतो. ओके, सायंटिस्ट लोक तिला प्रेमानं CNS म्हणतात. हा तिचा शॉर्ट फॉर्म आहे, CN आणि S. ओके, त्यानंतर पेरिफेरल सिस्टम आहे, ही सेकंडला काम करते सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम सोबत. सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम तुम्ही पाहिलं तर फक्त ब्रेन आणि स्पायनल कॉर्ड, म्हणजे कसे दिसणार रे मित्रांनो, अशा टाइपचं काहीतरी तुम्हाला एक चित्र दिसणार आहे. ओके, या ठिकाणी तुमचा हँड ब्रेन असणार आहे पाठीमागच्या बाजूला, आणि नर्वस सिस्टम तुमची अशी खाली उतरणार आहे. ओके, ही झाली तुमची सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम. ब्रेन सोबत कनेक्ट आहे, आणि स्पायनल कॉर्ड पण आहे. ओके, हा सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टमचा पार्ट झाला तुमचा टोटल. मग या सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम मध्ये ना काही न्यूरॉन्स असे बाहेर येतात, सॉरी न्यूरॉन्स नाही, आपण त्याला नर्व फायबर म्हणूया. ठीक आहे, तर हे पूर्ण बॉडीला कव्हर करतात. तुमच्या प्रत्येक 2 व्हर्टिब्रेच्या मधून खाली येतात. व्हर्टिब्रल अरेंजमेंट वगैरे जे आहे तर ते स्पायनल कॉर्ड मध्ये पाहूया आपण. आता जास्त कॉम्प्लिकेटेड करायचं नाही आपल्याला. ठीक आहे, तर या पद्धतीने तुमची नर्वस सिस्टम पूर्ण बॉडीमध्ये मूव्ह होते किंवा बॉडीमध्ये स्प्रेड होते. ठीक आहे, मग आता लक्षात घ्या की हा जो पार्ट आहे, जो तुम्ही इतक्या वेळ मी या पार्टला परत एकदा दुसऱ्या कलरने ड्रॉ करतो, म्हणजे तुमच्या दोन्ही पेरिफेरल आणि सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टमला आपण वेगळं करून टाकूया. जर त्या इथे वेगळ्या नाही झाल्या मित्रांनो, तर तुम्हाला शेवटपर्यंत लक्षात येत नाहीत, मग त्या गोंधळ घालता तुम्ही पेपरमध्ये. तर तुम्ही गोंधळ घालायला फेमस आहात. ओके, हे जगातल्या सगळ्या टीचर्सला माहिती आहे. वर्षभर 2 वर्ष अभ्यास करता आणि पेपरमध्ये काहीतरी विचित्रच लिहून येतात. सरांना वाटतं इतकं मी वाईट शिकवतो. तर ही तुमची सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम मधनं बाहेर आलेले ब्ल्यू कलरचे कॉर्ड आहेत. हे ब्ल्यू कलरचे कॉर्ड जे आहेत ना, तर या नर्व्स आहेत मित्रांनो, नर्व्स. यांना काय म्हणायचं? नर्व्स. आता तुम्ही म्हणाल सर न्यूरॉन आणि नर्व्स मध्ये काय फरक आहे? तर नर्व्स म्हणजे काय, न्यूरॉनच असतात, फक्त त्यांचे बंडल्स असतात. ओके, बंडल्स म्हणूया आपण त्यांना. आपण साध्या भाषेत बंडल्स म्हणतो. यांना आपण वेगवेगळे नाव काही किंवा 1-2 लेक्चर नंतर देणार आहोत. ज्यावेळेस आपण पेरिफेरल नर्वस सिस्टम सुरुवात करूया, त्यावेळेस सगळे नर्व्स वगैरे व्यवस्थित पाहूया. स्टेप बाय स्टेप पाहूया. हावरट सारखं एकाच दिवशी सगळं पाहिलं की मग सगळंच विसरून जातं एकाच दिवशी, बरोबर की नाही? ह्या ज्या नर्व्स आहेत ना, या 2 टाईपच्या असतात. एक असतात क्रॅनियल नर्व, एक असतात स्पायनल नर्व. क्रॅनियल म्हणजे काय, तर या ब्रेन वरती जे सराउंडिंग आहे ना ब्रेनचं मित्रांनो, तर हे कशाचं असतं माहिती आहे तुम्हाला? ब्रेन वरती एक बोन असतं असं. ओके, या बोन्सला आपण स्कल म्हणतो की नाही. हे जे स्कल आहे ना तुमचं, या स्कलचा जो पार्ट आहे ब्रेनला कव्हर करतो. ओके, स्कल वरती वेगवेगळ्या टाईपचे बोन्स आहेत. किती बोन्स आहेत? टोटल 22 बोन्स आहेत. So there are 22 bones in a skull. If you see the bones which is covering your brain is called as the cranium. Okay, so the part of your skull which is covering your brain is called as cranium. आपण ब्रेन पाहताना याला डिटेल पाहणार आहोत, कोणते कोणते बोन असतात, कसं कव्हर करतात ब्रेनला. ठीक आहे, आणि आपण 11th मध्ये सुद्धा वी ऑलरेडी डिस्कस दिस थिंग्स इन 11th. ओके, so in 11th last chapter, if you memorize this last chapter, the skeletal system, it was all about the bones in our body. Okay, so the cranial nerve which is coming from the brain, so cranial nerve means the nerve which is coming from the brain, and the spinal nerve which is coming from the spinal cord. स्पायनल कॉर्ड पासून बाहेर येणाऱ्या नर्व्सला आपण स्पायनल नर्व म्हणतो, आणि ब्रेन पासून बाहेर येणाऱ्या नर्व्सला क्रॅनियल नर्व म्हणतो. ओके, so if you see the function, so this red color dot is about for the function. Okay, so the communication line between the CNS and the rest of body. So your PNS is the communication between the body and your brain, or you can say CNS complete. Okay, brain and spinal cord, so togetherly you can say the CNS. Okay, so the PNS is actually the connection between the body and the CNS. Okay, so when the signal is coming from the brain, so it will enter into the motor division of nerves and the sensory division. So what are these sensory? Sensory means, so I'm going to rub this part guys now. So this is sensory. Sensory means body to CNS, and motor means CNS to body. So the any nerve fiber which is the transferring signal from brain to the body. Okay, from brain to the body, it's called as the motor, and any nerve fiber which is the conducting signal from body to the brain. Okay, or the body to the CNS. Brain म्हणण्यापेक्षा CNS word is more correct. Okay, so body to the CNS is your sensory nerve. Okay, so when your autonomic nervous system or your any system take a signal, so it will move toward the sensory neuron, and then sensory neuron to brain. Okay, so if you see the motor nerve, it is again the motor division is divided into the two. One is autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. So actually these are the part of your peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system can be divided into the autonomic and the somatic nervous system. Okay, so somatic nervous system is the system which is related to your somatic motors, means voluntary actions. Okay, so your skeletal muscles and other things are controlled by your motor divisions, or the PNS. Okay, so the PNS directly hold your voluntary movement, and also hold your autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system has its two branches. One is sympathetic. It is always activated in the extreme conditions, or the conditions where you feel like a threat. Okay, so like sometimes we call it a triple F system. Okay, flight, when you want to jump, that time this system will help you, so we call it flight. Fright, when you are threatened, or you are in a fear because of any reason. And the fight, so when you want to fight, that time this system will help you. Okay, and this parasympathetic nervous system, this is second part of your autonomic nervous system. Okay, so these are the two parts of your autonomic nervous system, and this parasympathetic nervous system always activate when you relax. Okay, so that's why it, the function, if you see, it is conserving energy, and the promoting housekeeping function during the rest. Okay, housekeeping functions means the functions which are required for the relaxation. Okay, so your respiratory system, your the uh, digestive system, peristalsis in a digestive system. So this type of systems are controlled by your parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so we have the another lecture on the autonomic nervous system. So in that lecture we will discuss this system in a very डिटेल. ओके, एकदम डिटेल मध्ये आपण ह्या सिस्टम सगळ्या डिस्कस करणार आहोत. आता मी फक्त तुम्हाला ओव्हरव्ह्यू देतोय, त्यामुळे स्लाइडचं नाव पहा. जे स्लाइडचं नाव आहे तेच तुमचं लेक्चर आहे, ओव्हरव्ह्यू ऑफ नर्वस सिस्टम. आज फक्त तुम्हाला इंट्रोड्यूस करून देतो, मग हळूहळू पाहूया. ठीक आहे, मी तुम्हाला पहिल्यांदाच सांगितलं की हावरेट सारखे एकाच दिवशी सगळं पाहिलं तर काय होतं, सगळंच विसरून जाल तुम्ही. ठीक आहे, मग काही इम्पॉर्टंट टर्म्स आहेत नर्वस सिस्टमच्या, तर या इम्पॉर्टंट टर्म्स तुमच्या लक्षात आल्या पाहिजेत, नाहीतर ऐन वेळेला गोंधळ होतो. मग तुम्हाला क्वेश्चन मध्ये जर एखादा यातला वर्ड आला तर क्वेश्चन समजायला अवघड जातं, बरोबर की नाही. मग या काही टर्म्स आहेत. So your nervous system function via the electric signal. Electric signal means these are nothing but the impulses. Okay, so these impulses are formed due to the potential difference. Potential difference. So change in a potential difference. Change in a potential difference result into the impulse, and these impulses uh, are responsible for the conduction of a signal from one part of your body to the second part of your body. Okay, so this is the graded potential, the first potential, or the type of potential. Okay, so these are the few terms about the electric signal. So graded potential always for the short distance communication. Okay, so it is for the short distance communication. So this action potential, or the potential, or the PD, potential difference, which is generated due to the graded potential, again transport, or it converts into the action potential. It is for the long distance communication. Okay, so it is for the long distance communication. It is for the short distance communication. Graded for short distance, and action potential for long distance. Okay, so keep in mind that. Muscle action potential, it is action potential which is initiated inside of the muscle fibers. Okay, so when action potential is enter into the muscle fiber, we call it a muscle action potential. And the nerve action potential, when your action potential is inside of the neurons, or the nerve cells, so it is called as the nerve action potential, or generally we call it a nerve impulses. Okay, so the nerve impulse is the thing, but the nerve action potential. Okay, so these are only four terms you have to keep in mind, so we can understand the actual function of a nervous system. So let's understand the function of a nervous system. Okay, for example, here is one key keyboard. Okay, so for example, this is a key of your laptop. Okay, and you want to press it. So when you are trying to press it, you just hold your finger on this key. Okay, so for example, this is your finger. So if you have I mean you can feel the color of nail paint here if you have any. So this is, I know it's a Diwali, so you will definitely have the nail paint. Okay, girls काही तिकडनं reply दिला असं we already sir, so don't worry. So for example, the you are they just keep your finger on this key. Okay, so this is your finger and this is the key. So when you touch your finger to the key, so here is some sensory receptors. Okay, so these sensory receptors are taking the signal from the key. Okay, so it actually start feeling the key. So sensory receptor, these are the sensory receptors. Okay, हे काय आहेत रे मित्रांनो, sensory receptors आहेत. So they are just taking a signal from the key. Okay, so they just feel the key and start the signal that feel moving toward the your brain. Okay, so now the signal is moving toward your brain. Okay, so for example, this is your the neuron, like okay, so this is a neuron which is moving toward the brain now. Okay, so before the brain we know the structure. Okay, so the structure is looks like this. Okay, so the any neuron which is coming from here always enter into the spinal cord first. So let's draw the spinal cord here. So your spinal cord is looks like a butterfly shape. Okay, this is your spinal cord, looks like a butterfly. Here is the gray matter and white matter. Okay, here is your central canal. So this neuron is going to enter into this part and moving toward the now brain. Okay, so let's draw the structure of a complete structure of your, this is your a part of your the spinal cord. Okay, so this is spinal cord. Okay, so your nerve is going to enter into the spinal cord and moving toward the brain. So this is actually the signal which is moving toward the brain. So now here we have the next cell, for example. So the next neuron. Okay, so the single neuron is not moving from your hand to the complete portion of your I mean complete brain toward the brain directly. Okay, so for example, here is one neuron. So this neuron is called as the interneurons. Okay, so these are the interneurons. Interneurons. Okay, so these are the interneurons, and they are moving toward the brain now. So they also had their own the branch to the next neuron. So here is your next neuron. Okay, which is moving toward the brain. Now let's see. So the gap between two neurons is called as a synapse. Okay, so this is nothing but the synapse. So we have another separate lecture on a synapse. Okay, so we will have the separate lecture on a synapse. So, and in this lecture also we are going to complete it the synapse. What is meant by synapse? Now just see, synapse is nothing but the joint or the gap between two neuron. Okay, so here is a synapse, and the when signals started moving toward the brain, the brain कडे जाता जाता काय करणार आहे, so it will enter first into the spinal cord. So signal first enter into the spinal cord and moving toward the brain. मग brain मध्ये जाताना इथे काय होणार आहे मित्रांनो, so at the point of a synapse there is a secretion of a neurotransmitter. Okay, So here is a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter, I'm going to draw that neurotransmitter by red color. Okay, so these are the neurotransmitters. Chemicals are. Okay, so you can say it's a chemical signaling. Chemical signals. आणि इथे जर पाहिलं तर कोणते आहेत, इलेक्ट्रिक आहेत. इलेक्ट्रिक किंवा तुम्ही त्याला इम्पल्स म्हणू शकता. ओके, इम्पल्स और इलेक्ट्रिक सिग्नल या पॉइंटला आहे. मग आता इथे गेल्याच्या नंतर काय होणार आहे, हा सिग्नल याच्यामध्ये एंटर होणार आणि परत ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल म्हणजे इथे परत कोणता येणार, इलेक्ट्रिक, तुमचा इम्पल्स परत इथे तयार झालेला आहे. ओके, so your signal is taken by the sensory receptor, then the neurons, these neurons are moving toward the brain, so you can say it's a sensory neuron. Okay, so these are the sensory neuron because direction is moving toward the brain, so sensory. These are the sensory neurons. Brain कडे चाललेत म्हणून sensory म्हणायचं. ठीक आहे. So now this neuron is enter into the brain. Okay, so let's draw the brain here. So this is your brain, guys. Okay, so it is always looks like this. So in a brain, here is a one part. I am going to call it thalamus. Thalamus मध्ये जातो आधी signal. Okay. Why signal sensory signal is entering into the thalamus? Because thalamus is a relay center, for the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron relay center म्हणजे सगळे सिग्नल आधी तिथे येणार आहेत. Then thalamus decide which signal is moving toward the which part. Okay, so the decision is taken by the thalamus, and the signal which is coming from the touch of our the keyboard is moving toward the cortex of a brain. Okay, so what is meant by cortex of a brain? So the part of a brain which is close to the periphery of a brain. So this is your brain, looks like always folded form. Okay, so this is nothing but the cortex, the outer part of your brain. Okay, so this is nothing but the cortex, outer part of your brain. So here I am going to draw two sections. Okay, so one is by red color and the second one is here. Okay, so these sections are the two different sections of your brain. Okay, so this first one is your sensory part and the second one is your motor part. Okay, so the primary motor area or the area is from the cortex part. Okay, brainचा cortex part आहे म्हणून आपण याला motor cortex किंवा sensory cortex पण म्हणतो. ओके, प्रायमरी एरिया आहेत दोन्ही. ज्यावेळेस प्रायमरी एरियामध्ये सेन्सरी एरियामध्ये सिग्नल एंटर करतो ना, सो सिग्नल इज रीड बाय युअर ब्रेन, इट कंपाइल म्हणजे त्याची सगळी माहिती घ्यायची की काय झालेलं आहे. तर बोट कुठे लागले, तर आता की वरती टच झालेला आहे आणि आता तुम्हाला की प्रेस करायची. सो द मोटर न्यूरॉन स्टार्ट signaling to the next neuron. Okay, so now the second neuron is moving from here toward this direction, again having the joints. Okay, its branches here which is having the contact with the second neuron like this. So this neuron is going to enter here and coming out from the here. Okay, so the neuron that is here is called as the interneurons if they are between the two neurons. दोन न्यूरॉनच्या मध्ये असतील तर इंटरन्यूरॉन. हा जो आहे यांना आपण काय म्हणतो, अपर न्यूरॉन्स म्हणतो यांना. ठीक आहे, सो दीज आर दी अपर न्यूरॉन्स. अपर म्हणजे वरच्या बाजूला आहे आणि खालच्या बाजूला आहेत म्हणून यांना म्हणायचं लोअर न्यूरॉन्स. So this yellow color shows the motor neurons. Okay, so what we call it, the sensory one. First one was the sensory, which is moving. So this is your sensory neurons or sensory nerves, and this is a motor nerve. मोटार नर्व म्हणजे कुठून रे, ब्रेन कडून ऑर्गन कडे चाललेले आहे, तिला मोटार नर्व म्हणतो आपण. ठीक आहे. मग ती मोटार नर्व कुठे चालली आहे, तर स्पायनल कॉर्ड मध्ये एंट्री गेली. स्पायनल कॉर्ड नंतर ती पुढे गेली आणि इथून तुमच्या या पॉइंटला परत सिग्नल देते, या मसल्सला. या मसल्सला तिने जे पण सिग्नल दिले, तर हा जो पार्ट आहे याला आपण म्हणतो न्यूरोमस्क्युलर जंक्शन. न्यूरोमस्क्युलर जंक्शन. ओके, सो दिस इज युअर न्यूरोमस्क्युलर जंक्शन. न्यूरोमस्क्युलर जंक्शन वरती काय होतं, तुमचा न्यूरॉन आणि मसल्स एकमेकांसोबत कम्युनिकेट करतात. ओके, सो दिस इज युअर न्यूरोमस्क्युलर जंक्शन. This neuromuscular junction actually signal your the finger to press it. Okay, आणि मग तुम्ही काय करता, प्रेस करता. हा अशा पद्धतीने आपल्या बॉडी मध्ये सगळ्या गोष्टी चालतात. मग त्या फिंगरने पहिल्यांदा ज्यावेळेस सेन्स केलं, तर फक्त हेच नाही सेन्स केलं की आपण टच केलेलं आहे एखाद्या कीला. ओके, तर सोबत ते हे पण सेन्स करतं की हाऊ द स्मूथ key is. Okay, so how rub the key is. So these all type of signals are already taken from your sensory receptor and which is given to your thalamus. So thalamus decides which type of a signal is this and where it should be gone in our brain. Okay, आणि एक्झॅक्ट पार्टला ज्यावेळेस सिग्नल जातो त्यावेळेस तिथून त्याचं कंपायलेशन होऊन त्याची इन्फॉर्मेशन रिव्हर्स येते. सो दिस pathway which is drawn by the yellow color is your motor pathway and white color shows your sensory pathway. Okay, so this is actually the type of communication between the organ and the brain. Okay, organ आणि brain मध्ये कोणत्या टाइपचं कम्युनिकेशन आहे. So this communication is nothing but the sensory and motor communication. Okay, so the sensory communication always travel from organ to the brain, and the second communication, that is your motor communication, is always from brain to organs. Okay, म्हणजे काय झालंय हे सांगण्यासाठी तुमच्याकडे व्हेरी गुड इव्हिनिंग. Very good evening guys. So I just saw your message. Okay, so very good evening. मित्रांनो, काय झालेलं आहे, मराठी समजते ना सगळ्यांना? So first your organs are just taking the signal from the vicinity, and the signals are moving toward your brain. So the organs send it to the brain and brain decide what type of a signal is that, and again send it back toward the organ. So that organ wants to perform some functions. Okay, so the function of our each and every organ is performed because of the motor cortex, which is decide, or which is the main part of your brain, which actually involved in the decision, taking a decision or the making a decision. Okay, and the sensory part is taking the information from the environment. Okay, so this is actually the function. So if you see in this part, the signals are very for the very short distance. So you can say these are the gradient potential. Okay, gradient potential म्हणतो आपण याला. So if you see here in the dendrites, so dendrites are here placed in the next cell. So this cell before the junction is called as a presynaptic cell. Presynaptic cell, and this cell which is coming after the synapse is called as the postsynaptic cell. Postsynaptic cells. Okay, so these are the postsynaptic cells and these are the presynaptic cells. Presynaptic means before synapse and the postsynaptic means the after synapse. Okay, so let's start the next slide guys. So this is actually function of nervous system, and day by day in the complete course of a nervous system we are going to see the detail about this all type of the words what we are written on the board. Okay, so let's see the first one, the generation of action potential. So what is action potential? So after the gradient potential, this potential, if you see, it is moving for the longer distance, so this is nothing but the action potential. So this action potential is nothing but the impulse. Okay, ज्याला आपण impulse म्हणलोय ना, so this impulse is nothing but your action potential. So let's see how the action potential generated. Okay, so the action potential generate after the sensory receptors. Sensory receptors are taking a signal from the sensation, and they are moving toward the nerve, and these nerves are getting a signal, and that signal is actually travel through the action potential. So this is the path or the way of traveling of a signal. Okay, so action potential means what? So action potential is a sequence of a event, guys. Okay, so it is nothing but the sequence of events that decrease and reverse the membrane potential and then restore it the resting state. What is meant by resting state? So we are going to discuss about that also. Okay, so what is meant by resting state? We are going to discuss about that also. Okay, so guys, for example, this is your neuron. Okay, so we know it looks like this. These are the dendrites. This is nothing but the axon. Okay, which is end into the axonites किंवा याला आपण axon the टर्मिनल्स म्हणतो. ओके, याला एक्झॉन टर्मिनल्स म्हणतो. तर आपण काय पाहतोय, रेस्टिंग पोटेन्शियल. सो इफ यू सी this part at any time, it is having its the potential difference in a volt. If you say it's minus 70 millivolt. Okay, so that means the negative charges inside, more negative charges inside as compared to the more positive charges outside. Okay, so this is actually potential, we called it a resting potential. So your resting potential always had the minus 70 millivolt value. Okay, so this is the value of your action potential. Okay, this events has a two main pages. So which events? So this action potential had its two main pages. One is a depolarization and second one is a repolarization. So what is meant by depolarization? So in a depolarization, actually this positive charge rush inside and make this the inside of a cell is positive. Okay, so the conversion of a negative to the positive of a inside of cell is called as the depolarization, where the membrane become the membrane potential become positive, and the repolarization is where the membrane become negative again. So this is nothing but the resting potential. That is why I also write here the reverse. Okay, so the what is meant by reverse? So when the action potential generate, it will again enter to the resting potential, that is the reverse. Okay, and your action potential is here at that point. Okay, so the depolarization and repolarization पुढच्या ग्राफ मध्ये तुम्हाला भरपूर जास्त क्लिअर होईल. Depolarization म्हणजे काय, repolarization म्हणजे काय. ठीक आहे, just hold yourself for a while. At the time of repolarization, membrane became more negative and temporary called as a hyperpolarization. Okay, so sometime, for example, this is the graph of your membrane. So this is your resting potential. So it is action potential. When this action potential start repolarizing, means coming to the it's a resting potential. So this is your resting potential minus 70. Okay, when for example this is my plus 40, so the difference, if you see, it is about more than 100 millivolt. Okay, and when it comes to the resting potential, so it will never directly stop at the resting potential, but sometime or the most of the time this repolarization is active for more than the resting potential, and it become more negative, and this more negative phase is called as hyperpolarization, and this part or this time for the hyperpolarization is called as a refractory period. Okay, so this is the refractory period and hyperpolarization, same thing. But the if you see, if you are talking about the potential difference, so it is hyperpolarization, and if you are talking about the potential difference with respect to time, so it is a refractory period. Okay, so the way in refractory period, what happen, guys, the action the resting potential of your membrane become more and more negative for the very few amount of a time, and that's why we always call it the temporary phase. Okay, so this is your temporary phase. Actually this is the third phase. Hyperpolarization is the third phase, but the main phases are the depolarization phase, repolarization phase, and that's why I write here the two main phases. And this is the third. It is the temporary. If you see the function or the property of this hyperpolarization state or the refractory period, तर या रिफ्रॅक्टरी पिरियड मध्ये कोणत्याही नर्वला सिग्नल घेता येत नाही नवीन. ओके, सो इन द रिफ्रॅक्टरी पिरियड सेल इज नॉट गोइंग टू accept any signal from the vicinity of environment. Okay, that's why it's a temporary and having a very low time at that particular phase. Okay, in this event of action potential, two type of channels plays main role. Okay, so which channels? First is a sodium channel and the second is a potassium channel. They open and close during this event of the action potential, that is the depolarization and the repolarization. Okay, so in this event, so they open and close one by one. Okay, so how? So actually your sodium is responsible for the depolarization, and your potassium is responsible for the repolarization. So sometime you will have the question in the examination like a NEET. NEET सारख्या examination मध्ये एखादा question येतो तुम्हाला मित्रांनो की which of the following is responsible for the hyperpolarization. तर सोडियम सॉरी पोटॅशियमचं नाव तुम्हाला लिहायचं आहे. So the potassium is actually responsible for the hyperpolarization. Okay, हायपरपोलरायझेशनचं नाव जर कोणी विचारलं तुम्हाला पेपर मध्ये विचारलं की हायपरपोलरायझेशन कशामुळे होतं, तर हायपरपोलरायझेशन कशामुळे होतं मित्रांनो, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द के प्लस. ओके, पोटॅशियमच्या चॅनलमुळे. पोटॅशियम चॅनल opens for a longer time than the requirement, and that's why the potential membrane potential decreases to the more negative charge as compared to the resting potential or the resting state, and that's why the potential complete potential of the membrane is more negative, and that more negative potential is called as hyperpolarization. आणि जेवढ्या वेळासाठी ते राहतं तर तेवढ्या वेळाला आपण म्हणतो रिफ्रॅक्टरी पिरियड. ओके, हा रिफ्रॅक्टरी पिरियड म्हणून आपण लिहितो या ठिकाणी. ठीक आहे, चला नेक्स्ट स्लाइड वरती तुम्हाला आणखी जास्त क्लिअर होणार आहे. सोडियम पोटॅशियम चॅनल्स काय करतात. ओके, सो दीज आर दी चॅनल प्रेझेंट्स मेनली इन द मेम्ब्रेन ऑफ axon of neuron and the axon terminal. ओके, मग axon of neuron म्हणजे काय रे, तर फॉर एक्झाम्पल हा तुमचा न्यूरॉन आहे. ओके, हा न्यूरॉन कंप्लीट, आणि हे ॲक्झोनाइट्स किंवा ॲक्झॉन टर्मिनल्स म्हणतो. हे डेंड्राइट्स, यांना यांना डेंड्राइट्स म्हणायचं. ठीक आहे, ही तुमची सेल बॉडी आहे, हिला सेल बॉडी म्हणतो. याच्या आतमध्ये कुठेतरी न्यूक्लियस आहे. ओके, आणि आतमध्ये ग्रॅन्युअल्स असतात असे. या ग्रॅन्युअल्सला निजस ग्रॅन्युअल्स म्हणतो आपण. निजस ग्रॅन्युअल्स म्हणजे काय रे मित्रांनो, तर हे रायबोझोम आणि RER च्या पीसेस पासून बनलेले असतात. ओके, सो दे आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दी प्रोटीन सिंथेसिस. कोणते प्रोटीन सिंथेसिस, जे रिप्लेस करायचे त्यांच्यासाठी. आणि हा जो कंप्लीट पार्ट आहे याला आपण म्हणतो ॲक्झॉन. या ॲक्झॉन मध्ये तुमचे मेम्ब्रेन मध्ये हे असे बसलेले असतात सोडियम पोटॅशियम पंप. ओके, दोन्ही साइडने. Okay, throughout the membrane you can see them. In this membrane also the sodium potassium is placed inside of the axonites. Axonites मध्ये सुद्धा असतात sodium potassium pump. Okay, so the sodium channel open and allow ion to rush into the cell and causes depolarization. Okay, मग सोडियमचं काम काय आहे? फॉर एक्झाम्पल आय एम गोइंग टू झूम दिस पार्ट हियर. मी हा पार्ट झूम करतो. ठीक आहे, मग आपण या ठिकाणी या पार्टला पाहू. सो फॉर एक्झाम्पल दिस इज सोडियम पंप. सोडियम पंप, आणि या बाजूला एक आपण पोटॅशियम पंप दाखवू. इथे पण असतो पोटॅशियम पंप. ठीक आहे, असं काय नाही की एकाच बाजूला आहे, दोन्ही बाजूला असणार आहे. हा पोटॅशियम पंप इकडे घेऊया. मग आता काय करणार आहे, सोडियम ओपन अँड अलाउ आयन टू रश inside of the cell. Okay, so this sodium plus ions are moving, entering inside of a cell, and this K plus allow the K plus pump allow this K plus to enter outside of the cell. K plus is rushing out and sodium is rushing in. Okay, so the sodium is rushing inside of a cell and K plus is coming out of the cell. Okay, so the sodium is actually responsible for the depolarization and the potassium pump is actually responsible for the repolarization phase. Okay, so this K plus channel remain open after the repolarization. So after the repolarization means attending the complete attending of the resting potential, this repolarization continue for the a very little time or the temporary. So this K plus is responsible for the hyperpolarization. It will reduce the actual potential of a membrane from -70 to the again minus toward the more minus, and that is the hyperpolarization phase. So the hyperpolarization is always caused by your K plus channel. Okay, so this is actually the action potential looks like. If you see in this diagram, so the sodium is moving inside of a cell. Okay, so sodium is coming inside of a cell because this part is get trigger due to the any signal, कोणता एखादा signal, for example इथे कोणीतरी तुम्ही पिन वगैरे लावली. Okay, so this started the signal and signals are moving toward the cell body. From cell body, so it is temporary guys. So you can say it's a graded potential. So here the action potential is actually started. Sodium is coming inside. Sodium आतमध्ये यायला लागले. सोडियम चॅनल आतमध्ये आले की आतमध्ये पॉझिटिव्ह पोटेन्शियल तयार झालं. हा पॉझिटिव्ह पुढे सरकतो. इथला पण सोडियम ओपन होणार आहे. So it is again start sending N plus, sorry, sodium plus inside. So it is also going to be a positive here. आणि हा पुढे सरकला की पाठीमागच्या पार्ट मधून काय होणार आहे. So K plus is coming out. Okay, so this K plus is coming out, and because of the K plus which is coming out, the potential, that is the positive, which is now becoming a negative. Okay, and त्यामुळे आपण काय म्हणतो, K plus is responsible for the repolarization. So this is your repolarization. This is your depolarization. Depolarization पुढे सरकलं, इथून इथे जंप झालं, तुम्हाला या पार्टला पाहायला भेटतंय. ओके, काय झालं, या ठिकाणून या ठिकाणी जंप झालं. ते जसं पुढे आलं ना, पाठीमागची जी पार्ट आहे, so this part is now again attending its resting potential. Resting potential. So the process of attending the resting potential again is called as the repolarization, and the process of the changing its potential toward the more positive is called as the depolarization guys. Okay, लक्षात येतंय, रेस्टिंग पोटेन्शियल पासून पॉझिटिव्ह कडे मूव्ह झालं तर डिपोलरायझेशन, आणि रेस्टिंग पोटेन्शियल डिपोलरायझेशन करून परत रेस्टिंग पोटेन्शियल कडे मूव्ह झालं पोटेन्शियल, तर आपण त्याला म्हणतो रिपोलरायझेशन. ठीक आहे, तर सोडियम जसं जसं ओपन होईल पुढे पुढे सरकत जातो मित्रांनो असा, आणि हा जसा जसा पुढे सरकत जाईल त्याच्या पाठीमागे पोटॅशियम पंप पण येतो. त्यामुळे इथे तुम्हाला रेस्टिंग पोटेन्शियल पाहायला भेटेल. इथे तुमचा रिपोलरायझेशन चालू आहे, हे जे आहे हे डिपोलरायझेशन चालू आहे, आणि हे रेस्टिंग पोटेन्शियल आहे. थोड्या वेळाने इथे पण डिपोलरायझेशन होणार आहे आणि या ठिकाणी रिपोलरायझेशन होणार आहे. त्यामुळे ह्या सायकल्स आहेत. ओके, सो यू कॅन से दिस इज द वेव्ह व्हिच इज मूव्हिंग फ्रॉम द this part of axon. So this part of axon is called as axon hillock. Axon hillock. So from the axon hillock to the axonal terminal, this process is moving like this. Okay, and your the repolarization is also moving like this. Repolarization पण पाठीमागेच मूव्ह होते, त्याच्या पाठीमागेच आहे, एका फक्त नोडने पाठीमागे आहे, त्याच्या पाठीमागेच आहे. ओके, म्हणजे ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल काय आहे मित्रांनो, सो इट इज द सिक्वेन्स और द ग्रुप ऑफ इव्हेंट वेअर द potential of your neuron is changing from the negative or the resting potential toward the positive, and again reverse to the resting potential. Okay, resting potential पासून positive करायचं, positive पासून परत reverse बनवायचं. So this is nothing but your action potential. Okay, so let's see level of action potential. So there are few levels of action potential. So first one is a stimulus. Stimulus means it is actually required for the action potential. It is the raw material which is required for the action potential. जर कसला टच नसेल, कसला स्टिम्युलस नसेल तर ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल होणार नाही. सो व्हॉट इज स्टिम्युलस? इट इज एनी डिटेक्टेबल. डिटेक्टेबल म्हणजे नेमकं काय तरी आपण पाहणार आहोत. ओके, सो आय एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द व्हॉट इज मीन बाय डिटेक्टेबल. So any detectable physical, chemical, electrical change in the external or the internal environment which brings about the excitation in a nerve, muscle, organ or the complete organism is called as the stimulus. So stimulus is any signal which is responsible for the raising of action potential. Okay, it is nothing but the input for the action potential. Okay, so it is nothing but the input for the action potential. Input for the action potential. Okay, so the type of a stimulus, let's see. The first one is a threshold stimulus. So it is minimum intensity of a signal or the stimulus required for the excitation of a nerve signals. Okay, nerve signal ला excite होण्यासाठी जेवढी minimum intensity of stimulus is required is called as the threshold stimulus, subliminal and the supraliminal. These are the again two stimuluses. So subliminal means weak. Okay, for example, action potential required. Sorry, this is the action potential. Okay. So action potential required this stimulus, this much stimulus like minus 40. Okay, so this is minus 70. So the your a threshold stimulus should be the stimulus of a minus 40. In minus 40 पर्यंत गेलं पाहिजे. Minus 40 पर्यंत गेलं तर it will automatically raise toward the complete positive charge. Okay, positive 40 for example. Okay, positive 40 पर्यंत जाईल. But your stimulus is a weak like this. Okay, so this weak stimulus is called as the subliminal signals, and this subliminal will the you can say it is vanish before the action potential. Action potential तयार होण्याच्या आधीच ते काय होतं, vanish होतं, निघून जातं तिथून. ठीक आहे. So the strong stimulus means the stimulus which is more than the your threshold frequency. So this is your threshold stimulus. थ्रीशोल्ड पेक्षा जास्त असेल तर तुम्ही त्याला काय म्हणणार, त्याला आपण म्हणतो की सुप्रालिमिनल म्हणजे स्ट्रॉंग सिग्नल. ओके, स्ट्रॉंग सिग्नल असेल तर ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल शुअर आहे. ठीक आहे, चला नेक्स्ट. So this is your action potential guys. So this action potential is actually in the form of the graph. Okay, so this is a graph of your action potential. Okay, so this graph shows the voltage on this axis which is the moving toward the, and here is the time in a millisecond. Okay, so meter second नाही आहे, millisecond आहे. millisecond लिहितो मी इथे. ओके, हा मिलीसेकंद आहे मित्रांनो. ठीक आहे, आता मिलीसेकंद पुढे काय होणार आहे बघा. सो दिस इज युअर थ्रेशोल्ड stimulus minus 55 millivolt. This is in a millivolt. Okay, so minus 55 millivolt is your threshold stimulus, and this is your subliminal signals. Okay, these are the subliminals. Subliminals means they are not enough to activate the action potential. Okay, so this is depolarization. We know in a depolarization what happen guys, sodium is entering inside of the cell. Okay, so sodium enters cell, rushing inside of a cell kiva axon. And in a repolarization we know the potassium pump is active. So here in a repolarization potassium pump open, pump kiva channel, and here in a depolarization sodium pump open. Okay, so potassium is coming out of axon. So if you see, this is coming out of axon and this is entering into the cell, so entering into the axon. So these are the opposite things to each other. So depolarization and repolarization are opposite to each other. In depolarization sodium is entering into the cell and potassium is coming out of the cell. Okay, and in a refractory period if you see the potassium pump is open for a longer. So here you can say the potassium pump open for longer. Potassium pump is open for a longer, and it will result into the refractory period, or this phenomenon is called as hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization. Okay, so this is repolarization, depolarization. Depolarization is your first event. Depolarization your first event, repolarization is your second event, and this is your third event, hyperpolarization. If you see the complete action potential required, not a 3 millisecond or the time less than 3 milliseconds. Okay, so if you see it started from 1 and end into the 3, so it is just 2 milliseconds, or the not complete 2 milliseconds. Okay, so the before 2 milliseconds one action potential ends, and that's why the speed of action potential, or the speed of impulses through the nervous system is a very high. It is about 100 meter, I mean the on an average it is 100 meter per second. Okay, so here is your the second diagram of action potential. So we have two axons, or the two nerves here. Okay, so this is called as unmyelinated. So if you see, here is no any the structure like this on this neuron, so it is unmyelinated. So this myelin is due to the Schwann cell. Okay, Schwann cell मुळे याच्यावरती ह्या Schwann cells आहेत जे याच्यावरती रॅप करतायत. So this myelin sheath act as an insulator. So the speed from this neuron, the myelinated neuron, is high speed of impulses, and here the speed of impulse is low. Okay, because one by one these charges are moving, or the moving toward this. So after a few seconds, milliseconds, so this is also becoming a positive, and this is coming to the resting potential. So this is actually attained its resting potential. Okay, so this jumping of a signal or impulse from one nodes of an wire to the second nodes of an wire, या दोघांमधला जो गॅप आहे ना, हा या दोन मायलिन शीथ मधला, तर त्याला आपण नोड्स ऑफ an wire म्हणतो. Okay, so the this signal which is jumping from one node of an wire to the second node of an wire, this type of conduction is called as the saltatory conduction. Saltatory conduction. Okay, तुम्हाला विचारलं जातं in which of the following saltatory conduction happens. काही पण लिहून येतात मायलिनेटेड न्यूरॉन लिहायचं. काय लिहायचं? मायलिनेटेड. इथे आहे का जम्पिंगला चान्स? नाहीये. So this type of signals are not called as a saltatory conduction. So it is the normal conduction of your impulse. Okay, तुमच्या impulse normal conduction या ठिकाणी होतं. ठीक आहे, येतंय लक्षात मित्रांनो? चलो, so this is the actually a good diagram, or the good presentation I found on the internet. So guys, here you can see these are the pins. Okay, खेळी दाखवले तिथे. So they are having, or you can say these are the axonites म्हणा किंवा काही म्हणा. So when your cell body of a neuron get activated due to the signal which is coming from here. Okay, so here is actually these are the axons. Okay, these are the axons, or the axonites. Okay, axonites. So here is your neurotransmitter, and the signal is taken by this cell. So what happen inside of this cell is here. Okay, so the first of all, the if you see the direction, it is moving toward this direction. Okay, so first of all, your sodium get activate sodium channel and start moving inside. Okay, so this condition is now positive, you can see here. So you first of all it is negative, and then become positive. Now let's see. So after a few seconds or milliseconds, so this is entering into the next part, where again the N plus is coming inside, and that time your potassium is coming outside. So it is becoming its resting potential, and it is activating toward the action potential. So this is the depolarization happening inside of the cell. Okay, so what are the properties of the nerve fibers? Okay, so the first property of nerve fiber is irritability. So what is meant by irritability? It is ability to respond to stimuli. Okay, so in a fourth or fifth class we already discussed this irritability. So the conductivity means ability to transmit an impulses is called as a conductivity. The summation effect, sometime the subliminal means a weak signal. Weak signal will have no effect, but if many such weak signal stimuli or the weak signals are given in a quick succession or the in a very low time, they may produce an impulse due to the addition of this weak signal. Okay, so the summation is nothing but the addition of weak signal, that is frequent signal, or the you can say addition of a weak signal in a low time result into the action potential. ओके, आपल्याला माहिती आहे ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल तयार होत नाही या सबलिमिनल सिग्नल मुळे. बट if there is a more subliminal signals, so the action potential may be the result, and in that situation we called it the समेशन इफेक्ट. ओके, समेशन इफेक्ट म्हणजे खूप सगळे जे वीक सिग्नल आहेत तर ते एकत्र येणार आहेत आणि त्यांच्यामुळे एक ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल जनरेट होणार आहे. ओके, सो द नेक्स्ट प्रॉपर्टी, फोर्थ प्रॉपर्टी इज ऑल और नन लॉ. ओके, सो what is meant by all or none law? If you see the graph, so it was like this. So this is your resting potential, this is your resting potential. If the action potential started, so it will start toward the direct action potential, this peak. Otherwise it will the reform its resting potential. Okay, म्हणजे काय, एक तर ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल जनरेट होईल नाहीतर होणार नाही, अर्धवट जनरेट होणार नाही. ओके, तुम्ही म्हणाल सर असं ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल जनरेट झालं नाही, होत असं ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियल. ओके, एक तर ते कंप्लीट जनरेट होईल टू दी हायेस्ट पीक, otherwise it will just vanish. That signal, that is the subliminal signal, will vanish here in that part, and it will not result into the action potential because it is not going to attain the threshold stimulus. Okay, so here is your threshold stimulus. थ्रीशोल्ड स्टिम्युलस हा -55. एकतर -55 पेक्षा मोठा असला पाहिजे सिग्नल, नाहीतर तो छोटा असेल तर ऍक्शन पोटेन्शियलला स्टार्ट करणार नाही. म्हणून आपण त्याला म्हणतो ऑल ऑर नन लॉ. आयदर इट इज ऍक्टिव्हेटेड or it will not activate. Okay, but there is no any condition that slightly activated or the half activated neuron, so there is no condition like this inside of a neuron. So that's why we call it all or none. Either it is activated completely or it will not going to activate. Okay, so the next fifth property is a refractory period. Okay, so it is a time interval during which the nerve fail to respond to a second stimuli. सेकंड स्टिम्युलसला नर्व सिग्नल देत नाही. कधी? रिफ्रॅक्टरी पिरियड मध्ये. मी ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन केलंय. सो इन द रिफ्रॅक्टरी पिरियड हियर resting potential, action potential, refractory period, resting potential. Okay, so in this situation, for this time nerve is not going to the take any signal. Okay, so it is inactivated for the new signal, or it fail to respond the second stimulus if it is a strong also. It doesn't matter how strong it is, but in a refractory period it is not going to take any signal, and this period is for about milliseconds and not more than the milliseconds. Okay, एका मिलीसेकंदापेक्षा मोठा नसतो, त्यापेक्षा नेहमी कमीच असणार आहे हा. ठीक आहे, त्यानंतर आहे न्यूरॉन अरेंजमेंट. So the arrangement of a neuron is like this inside of a body. So this is your synapse here. Okay, nucleus of a next neuron. So this next neuron, for example, signal is coming from here. So this neuron is called as a presynaptic neuron. Presynaptic neuron. And this neuron is called as postsynaptic neuron. So these are the impulses moving to this direction. So here is one more the synapse, and it is entering into the again next neuron. Okay, so this neuron which is between the two neuron is called as the interneuron. Interneuron because it is a place between these two neurons. Okay, and if you see it is also called as a postsynaptic neuron because it is come after the synapse. Okay, so guys, what is meant by synapse? So the synapse is the gap between two neurons. Okay, so impulses can cross the synapse to the another nerve. So neurotransmitter is released from the nerve's axon terminal. The dendrites of the next neuron has a receptor for that uh, the neurotransmitters. Okay, so the receptors for the neurotransmitter and the action potential started into the dendrites of the next cell. Okay, so how it happens, let's see. For example, this is your presynaptic nerve. Okay, so here is the neurotransmitter which is secreted by the cell. Okay, these are the neurotransmitters. These are nothing but the chemicals. So they are traveling toward the next one. So this is the receptor. Okay, so this receptor just are taking these signals which is coming from the last neuron. Okay, या neuron कडून आलेले signal कोणी घेतलेत, या receptor ने घेतलेत, and then it result into the action potential in the next neuron. Okay, so this is how your synapse act. So this is the synaptic cleft. Okay, so this gap is called as a synaptic cleft. Okay, and the structure which is involved in the synapse is, for example, this membrane and this membrane. So this complete structure which is involved in the gap is called as a synapse. Synapse म्हणजे complete structure, synaptic cleft म्हणजे मधला gap. ठीक है. So this is actually it happens. So at the time when the action potential reach to very close to the synapse, so it will activate the calcium ion and the calcium ion rush inside of a cell. Okay, which result into the secretion of a neurotransmitter or the fusion of these vessels. So these vesicles are going to fuse with this part and it will result into the secretion of a neurotransmitter. इथे neurotransmitter बाहेर आलेत. Okay, हे neurotransmitter आहे and this neurotransmitter just find their position in the next neuron. So these are the receptors and nothing but the receptors, and this receptor start the signal toward the next cell, and that is the action potential in the next cell. Okay, so this is how the synapse work inside of the nervous system. Okay, so the properties of the nerve fiber which are related to the synapse. Okay, synapse सोबत किंवा synaptic gap सोबत related ज्या properties आहेत तर त्या या पेज वरती तुम्हाला दिलेल्या आहेत. So what is meant by synaptic delay? The impulse required for or the required about to cross 0.3 to 0.5 milliseconds. Okay, so this synaptic gap or the synaptic the cleft is crossed by the signal and by the signal by the chemicals. Okay, so it is a chemical mean of a signal. Okay, काय होणार आहे, दोन सिनेपच्या मध्ये केमिकल सिग्नलिंग असणार आहे. फॉर एक्झाम्पल हा एक एक पार्ट आहे सेलचा. सो दिस इज युअर द one cell and this is the second. So the gap between two is called as a synapse. Okay, या synapse मधून केमिकल सिग्नल जाणार आहेत. सो दी केमिकल सिग्नल काय असणार आहे, स्लो असणार आहेत ॲज कम्पेअर टू द इम्पल्स. इथे काय आहे, इम्पल्स. इम्पल्स काय आहे मित्रांनो, फास्ट आहे. मग फास्ट इम्पल्सचं कन्व्हर्जन स्लो केमिकल्स मध्ये झालं की त्याच्यासाठी 0.3 to 0.5 मिलीसेकंद लेट होतो. सो दिस डिले ऑफ 0.3 to 0.5 millisecond is called as a synaptic delay. Okay, so synaptic fatigue, so the exhaustion of the neurotransmitter stop or the delay the next signal. Okay, so sometime these vesicles which is present here, so let's zoom it. Okay, so it will looks like this. So there are a few vesicles inside of the neurotransmitters. Okay, so these are the neurotransmitter vesicles. So sometime the after the more and more firing of the single nerve. Okay, परत परत एखादी nerve जर fire होत असेल, fire means the generation of action potential here. Action potential पुन्हा पुन्हा generate होत असेल तर it will result into the end of this vesicles. Okay, म्हणजे जर vesicle बनवण्यापेक्षा, so the making of a vesicle, the rate of making of a vesicle is the less than the use of a vesicle, so that time after few time, so these vesicles are going to be a exhaust, म्हणजे संपून जाणार आहेत. हे वेसिकल संपून गेले फॉर एक्झाम्पल, आता एकही वेसिकल राहिलेला नाही. मग हे जर वेसिकल राहिले नसतील तर काय होणार रे मित्रांनो? So the neurotransmitters will stop because there is a no availability or the sufficient availability of neurotransmitter, and it will definitely delay the signal, or that delay due to the inavailability of a neurotransmitter is called as synaptic fatigue. Okay, so the synaptic transmission, the process by which the impulse from a pre-synaptic neuron is conducted to the next neuron, that is the post-synaptic neuron, is called as synaptic transmission. And if you see the velocity, it is higher in a voluntary fibers, that is 100 to 120 meter per second in a man, and the in a involuntary the neurons, it is 10 to 20 meter per second in a human. Okay, so man means I'm talking about the complete human species, because these voluntary neurons are most of the time the myelinated. Okay, so these are the myelinated and these are non-myelinated. That's why this difference is there. The difference of velocity is because of myelination and the non-myelination. Okay, so the types of synapse, there are two types of synapse. One is electric and second one is a chemical. So at the electric the synapse, if you see, the distance between two cell is only 3.8 nanometer, but if you see in the chemical, it is 20 to 40 nanometer. Okay, so that's why what is happen here, guys. So for example, this is your the synapse, and the second cell is looks like this, which is taking a signal. Okay, so the gap is very less, it is about 3.8 nanometer. So the impulse can jump from this cell to the next cell. Okay, so impulse can jump, so it is nothing but the jumping of impulse. So this jumping of impulse does not require any chemical intermediate. Okay, so let's see, due to the very low gap, what happened, the electric conduction link is formed between the pre and post synaptic neurons. Okay, so there is a one link between the pre and post synaptic neuron, and that is why the jumping of a signal is happen, and this jumping of signal is always happen inside of the electric synapse and not never happen inside of the chemical synapse. Okay, so let's draw the diagram of a chemical synapse. So for example, this is the presynaptic nerve. Okay, sorry, postsynaptic nerve. I'm going to draw here same thing. So this is your the presynaptic neuron. Okay, so these are the vesicles. Now your signals are not going to jump this long distance. Okay, so distance is about 20 to 40 nanometer, and this is not going to be covered by the jumping of a signal, and that's why this vesicle come and fuse with this membrane, and after fusion they start secretion of chemicals. Okay, so these chemicals are the neurotransmitter, and this neurotransmitter is the actually the way of communication between the two cells. Okay, so these two cells are communicated due to the these chemicals, and these chemicals are called as a neurotransmitter. Okay, so your chemical synapse always rely on the neurotransmitter, and that's why they are very slow as compared to the electric synapse. Okay, so the electric synapse is a faster. Okay, so guys, this was all about your the synapse and the impulses. Okay, so from tomorrow we are going to start the central nervous system, that is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. So from tomorrow we are going to see what is the brain and the parts of the brain and the function of the parts of the brain. Okay, so guys, this is a telegram channel, it is for the notes and MCQs practice, and this is your Crack Maharashtra CET YouTube channel. So first of all, subscribe it and click on a bell icon so you can attend the live lecture. So try to attend the live lectures, guys. So if you attend it live, you can ask the question. and clear your doubts. ओके. तुमचे जर डाऊट क्लिअर नाही झाले तर तुम्ही असेच राहणार आहे मित्रांनो. तुम्ही तुमचे डाऊट्स तसेच राहतील आणि तुम्हाला काहीच कळणार नाही मग काय चाललंय. ओके. सो सी यू टुमॉरो 11 o'clock 11 AM. आपण उद्याच्याला कॅम्प पाथवे सुरू करणार आहोत. कॅम्प पाथवे ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. Okay, so it is tomorrow, and at 7 p.m. tomorrow we are going to discuss about this CNS. Okay, so thank you very much guys. Thank you for attending my lecture. If you like my lecture, so please click on a like button. Okay, so thank